the topics for tonight. Halfway through the day, instead of doing some guided meditations, we're going to mix it up with some other types of meditations tonight. But basically, these meditations are most people are polarized right now in their astral bodies, which is basically, it's known as the battleground between the opposites. It's where you learn your lessons, where you're emotionally charged, it's where your thoughts are running rampant. And eventually you have glimpses, but you work your way through that to start stepping into the mental body where you can be a co-creator. You're stepping into the wisdoms, to the soul of things, blah, blah, blah. So today I'm going to weave in some different things about helping to refine and steady that astral emotional body, so you can start to have some tools to work with to give you some spiritual insights. So these two tools are pretty good ones for helping to get to the soul of things and to start to have more spiritual epiphanies. I'm trying to decide which way to go with this. So if you picture your world as a circle, and there's always this influence, stuff you're pulling in, stuff you're pushing out. There's that cycle of energy, right? And it's all based upon your desires as you're in your astral body and your thoughts, translating those desires. So most of the time in the lower realms of the astral, you have desires that are running your world, and most of it is subconscious reactions to it that causes flare-ups of emotions. And eventually that starts to shift to where the thoughts predominate a little bit more than the desires. And you start stepping into, and that's why we practice a lot of things with imagination. You're building, you don't realize it, but you're building stronger suits, developing character. Do you see? So the idea in the character development is you start to realize that, hey, based on my attitude, my whole world shifts, both inside and out. As your attitude shifts, you start attracting new things in. And so some of the old relationships aren't the same anymore, because in their world, you're a whole different person. Do you see? But also, it not only shifts what you're calling in, it also shifts how you perceive the world. Do you see? All of a sudden, you're not seeing the world the same way anymore. And that's why it's so important to really, really try to develop a loving acceptance, because it opens things up. You're transmuting the lower desire world into something that's beyond you. And you'll do it in your own ways. You know, for instance, Catherine taking care of her parents, Bobby starting to express himself, different transitions that happen, making new relations. But that's a continuous process. You're being introduced to things that are calling to you to make a choice of how you want to respond to it, interact with it, live with it. Do you see? It starts with a feeling of how you experience things, and then it gets into how you're perceiving it and interacting with it. And the mantras that we do, so the first mantra, the Om Namo, it's really balancing out the outside world and the inside world, the creator without, the creator within. And then the Om Mani Padme Hum. For instance, most people are either leading their world through their heart or leading their world through their head. and how they interpret things, right? But eventually what happens is those things merge, you sit those things down a little bit, and you get to the soul of things. You get to the true understanding of what's going on in your world, in your circle of influence. And the better you get at doing that loving acceptance, what you're doing is you're creating a world of service. See, so service isn't so much in what you're doing. It's naturally in your authentic state of being and in that loving acceptance in the world in which you encounter. Do you see? It's weird, but we're all living in our own world. And we're always creating. And that's what we're trying to learn how to do. How to refine our approaches to where we're not so swayed either by the internal or the external world, the temporary things that are happening around us, to get to our true sense of being. So we're going to go into that a little bit tonight. We're going to first start with something to kind of shut off our senses so we can get to a silence. It's very important to know what these words mean. Another word Jacob brought up tonight is confidence. Confidence is a really important word as you're learning to work through the astral body. At first, remember, as I've told you in the past, when you're dealing with all things that are temporary, that are coming to you to stimulate you into responding, into experiencing, you have those knowledges. I've expressed to you before that it's not so much if you get past the thing, the true purpose of that knowledge is to give you confidence and a feeling of support. Confidence, when you're just looking at it through your thinking mind, might mean the way Jacob was expressing confidence. But really, confidence is the authenticity of your state of being. How truly can you express who you are without so much of a worry about how other people are going to respond or not respond, how the world is going to act or not act. You can just be you. And what's interesting about it sometimes is you'll discover things that were way beyond what your analytical mind can really show you. So a few weeks back, I talked about autistic children. And what's wild is if parents of autistic children would sit down with them and tell them how they're really feeling, like, man, sometimes this is hard. I can't handle it sometimes being your parent. Saying some things that are kind of hard to speak, but the truth, what'll happen is that parent will shift and so will the child, and the child will start to wake up. The parent doesn't realize that they're causing the block. Do you see? So a lot of times, even though your analytical mind might say, man, I can't put this on this child is helpless. Or I can't put this on this parent can't handle that. You open things up in ways that are you get to the soul of things. Do you see? That's the whole idea, is you get behind the things to see what's laying underneath. You see? So that's the kind of things we're looking at when we do this first meditation. When we say go into the silence, at first, silence is what you're thinking with your hearing ears. The true meaning of silence is the soul's voice. Do you see? So that's how these things are kind of decoded for you to understand. And then after the 2 meditations tonight, I'll give you guys some things to take home. But in those 2 things that I give you to take home, Lauren, I'm asking that you don't put that out online. Because that's only for people that are here, okay? Thank you. So the first meditation is pretty basic. All that you're going to do is close your ears and touch your third eye. When the meditation is done, I'll just tap her, and then she'll let the next person know. We'll tap each person so you can know, because you're going to have your eyes closed. You're just going to go like this. Put your hands up. Put your thumbs in your ear. Bring your ring or your middle finger, depending, preferably the middle finger, could be both, to your third eye. So you want to make sure that you're plugging the ears enough to where you can no longer really hear me. You got it? Anyone says yes, I know you can. I'm just checking. Okay, bring your hands back down. You ready? That's going to be it. So you're going to close your eyes and you're going to go centrally in and just observe. Make sense? Everyone ready? Okay, go ahead. Start. Just going to do one more thing. For 30 seconds, here's what I want you to do. You're going to judge what 30 seconds is to you. You're going to go back into that state, plug in the ears. Just point the middle finger right here. The rest of the fingers don't touch. Hold on, don't go yet. At the end of the 30 seconds, notice the feeling inside of you, the state of your being, and come up with a word. It's going to be your word that associates with that. And then just drop it and come back to the circle, okay? So just 30 seconds. At the end of the 30 seconds, somewhere between, find that word.
Are we plugging our ears?
Plug your ears and do it. So the chaos in the astral world is basically an imbalance between what you internally desire and then your thoughts about how it's playing out in the external world. See? So if you want to work to find some peace in the astral body, when you notice yourself starting to get stirred up, think of that word or going to that position and settle yourself for a moment. So in other words, maybe if you're being stirred up at work, use that word that you chose to bring back to your consciousness, to bring you back to that feeling. Try to wipe the slate clean a little bit. Going to pass this around, see if anything came up for any of you guys. Any questions, any thoughts, any concerns, any reactions? Thank you everyone for sharing. So, you see, we don't realize how much we're being led by our habits. You know, so she gave an example. For instance, she heard the matcha was playing. And so now when she went back in, the matcha was still playing. You know, that's how many of you have ever played the game Tetris? It's like we were connecting the blocks and going through. Play that game for about 10 minutes. And then you can turn your head somewhere else and you'll still see the blocks going. You see? This is this cycle. And we don't realize it because we're so disconnected from it. You see? So what I'm trying to show you with this, and with the next step you'll do at home, you can use this technique to kind of just wipe the hard drive for a second and get fresh again. You see? Remember the astral body. The whole goal of that is to reveal the soul. It's along one of the lines and that's the soul line. And the idea is to go from your individual desires, starting, you can look at it as a child going through adulthood, how that changes, or through man, through the ages, how that's shifted. So the desires keep going, in other words, and they can give you cues and clues. But you're going from your individual desires to a much deeper understanding of what love is. So always, love is always through the soul connecting spirit and form, and it's bringing you the things that are helping you to learn the lessons of love. It's coming from your desires. Most of those desires are either planted in subconsciously or they're being directed through the soul, through lessons that you asked to come into this lifetime, or karmas to work out, or relationships to work through. But if you can see that, you can start to see life much more broadly and revealing. Nothing is a mistake. Everything is helping you to progress. It's God-given. Do you see? And so when you can wipe that slate and just maybe get into a loving acceptance or a service field, and then open back up and now interact between the internal and the external worlds, it gives you a little bit more peace. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden your problems go away. It just means you're better equipped to work through them. Do you see? You're a little bit more confident. You're a little bit more clear. You're a little bit less swayed. Do you see? All those things are happening. And so if you can associate that in with a word or with a color or whatever, you can bring it back. In other words, you let go of the technique and you start to get a little bit closer into the soul of the teaching. From the form to the stuff behind the form. We're always creating forms, thought forms, colored through our emotions, or literally physical forms. Do you see? So it doesn't matter if you felt expansive or not, or you had thoughts or not, or you counted or not. That's just your own approach for the moment, but it's the stuff behind it. Do you see? Don't judge it. Just let it be. And the more you spend time with it, the stuff behind it reveals itself. That's why I tell you, it doesn't matter which forms or relations you choose. It's that you spend time with them. Give them some space so the loving essence behind them can start to reveal itself. And then you're getting closer to wisdom. You're getting closer to your mental body. Do you see? You're getting further out of the hall of learning, stepping into the hall of wisdom. There's all kinds of things within there. At your own pace, at your own play. I'm just giving you some approaches to work through the astral body. Some techniques to find some peace within the emotional stirrings and desires. Some opportunities to discover your potential. That loving wisdom that sits underneath all things and sets the spark of your essence and being. And you can start to notice, have confidence in who you are, and also who you are not. And being all right with your assets and your deficits. Seeing the pieces coming together, adding up towards your purpose. So for the next meditation, we're going to go onto the later stages, the tools. There's basically 3 tools that add up to help you get into the mental body and to really start to understand deeper levels of meditation, or to start to have more definite contact with the spirit world. The primary one that we're focusing on tonight is visualization. If you stick with visualization, not only will you get deeper understandings of what visualization means, but you're going to build a deeper relationship with spirit. Visualization is basically the bridge that connects the astral to the mental body. The mental body not being your thoughts, but where you're the co-creator, where you're starting to see things through the soul's lens, starting to step into the power of who you are and your world of influence, basically. You'll notice that there's 12 crystals placed out here. So each one of you pick up one of these stones. It's going to be the stone that you're going to visualize with tonight. So come on up and choose your stone. So the idea with visualization, it's multifaceted. And you can do visualizations with all kinds of different things. For some of you, you might enjoy visualizing more in the 3D form, as Bobby. Other of you could visualize more, for instance, if you were to do a visualization with perhaps the Buddha. But anyway, what you're doing is you're developing a little bit of focus, a little bit of will, and a lot of attunement. You're sharpening or intensifying your antenna in a way. Where you're going to focus with this meditation is you're going to stare at this for a little bit, really study it, and then you're going to close your eyes and bring that picture into your head, right between where you want to be putting your picture-making faculty is right between the pineal and the pituitary. So maybe right about here, going down a couple inches. That's where you kind of want to center your focus. I haven't decided yet which way we're going to do it. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to have you pick a side to stare at for about a minute, really study it, and then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a little bit and create that form inside. Okay? So go ahead. Well, before you start, just make sure you get into your meditative state. Clear yourself. Give yourself permission to be fully present. Letting go of doubts, judgments, stories, desires. Competitions. Okay, now look at your stone and really study it. We'll go through a couple times with the visualization practice. So 30 more seconds, just study it. Get the contours, the colors, the texture, whatever it is. the end of the countdown, you're going to close your eyes and bring that picture, visualize that inside. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep focusing. Open your eyes again. Look back into the stone. Reaffirm. In the beginning, this is a matter of experimental faith. Visualize, build your relation. When you're ready, close your eyes again. Look again at the stone. You're honing your power of visualization, allowing it to come alive within you. Focus all of your attention and all of your intention. Close your eyes in 3, 2, 1. What is the nature of your stone? What is its character? To fully visualize, must release your internal feelings and your external perceptions. Focus at that point between your third eye and crown chakra. Focus without tension. The loving acceptance. Symbolically, what is the spiritual influence coming through? One last moment of visualization. And bring yourselves back to the room. When you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you, Crystal, for the visualization experiment and faith. It's really a subtle thing to know the differences, to recognize the differences from, for instance, when you're being conscious in your physical or emotional or mental bodies. We're not too discerning of that yet. But you can notice it. So for the last, I think, week and a half, I've been in the evening eating some food, sometimes sugar or whatever, or having a late meal. And then it'll keep me in my astral body at night instead. So I have lots of boring dreams and thought patterns and trivial stuff coming from the subconscious. But what's wild is I can be fully alert astrally, but my body will be physically asleep. And so sometimes my body will start to snore and it'll wake up, even though I'm fully focused in the astral. Do you see? And that's the difference. You can have one, when you are fully conscious in one field, the other one can be fully asleep. And that's how we are going around all the time, not realizing it. not realizing that most of our life is being stirred up through our subconscious programmings. And so we're not really awake. But we don't realize it because we think we're awake. You see? It's really a neat thing to try to build in the levels of consciousness. But you got to build these and go through these stages. So eventually as the spiritual influences and messages are always coming through. But it's how do you become conscious of them so you can recognize them. And so that's what the visualization can help you do over time if you build a relationship and practice. But it requires a steady practice each day. Patience and persistence. A few minutes each day. If you keep doing, the stuff's going to naturally wake up. Because that's where you're building, that's where you're creating in your world of influence. Do you see? So at first you're building based on faith. And then over time, the stuff will start to come. Maybe you'll start to see colors or shapes or animals or whatever. If you don't get too wrapped up in it, and just let it be and stay humble, more and more stuff starts to awaken. To show you where you're at and what supporters are coming in. They're always around us. And we'll just start with, you want to go first or last? Just see if anything came up for you in that meditation. Any insights, any struggles, any epiphanies. Visualization is the true first step into meditation. The idea in this is that before you can say what you can or can't do with it, do it between 1 to 10,000 times. You just did it once. You see? But it's revealing a lot of things to you already. So imagine what it's going to be like at time 1,000. If you keep leaving room for insights or progress or whatever. Do you see? Remember, starting with imagination. Imagination is the key to the universe through which you can go anywhere in the universe. Do you see? And so these, the mineral kingdom is a part of the consciousness that's inside of us. We have the mineral consciousness in us, and it has certain teachings, certain things that have come out. The discovery of radium, learning how to radiate, is the secret, in essence, to building new bodies and new forms through the mineral kingdom. Learning how to work through the negative stuff, the forms, to get to the positive stuff, the soul of the things. And as it reveals itself, things get radioactive, all shaken up, and you create a new form that you relate to. Do you see? So there's things in science, there's things in feelings, and perceptions, and thoughts. All these things keep building on one another, but they're always there teaching us. So those rocks are very wise. While they're not of human consciousness yet, they're at the mineral consciousness, and all other consciousnesses, they're sitting there in potential. So that rock, the rock inside of you still is God in potential, God consciousness. Do you see? It's always building and coming together, and we're a synthesis of all those things. You're not trying to get rid of those things, but they're just going into the rightful places. And we're all going to react to these things in different kinds of ways as we're learning who we are. Some of us might more naturally think we can visualize than others. Some of us might think we control it or not. But really, everything is built based on your belief system. Do you see? You're creating your own world, your own realities. And that's the way it always will be. You see? And so what you do is you just keep growing and keep unlearning your limitations, unlearning your distortions, to really just step into the full potential of who you are, leaving room in ignorance for more and more growth. Some days you might be more tired and being all right with that. Some days things are going to come more natural, be all right with that. But you're building a whole process here, learning how to connect through. Any questions before we close out? Any things you want to cover before we close out? Any insights? So that's always a mix between, in the astral realm, between what you're internally desiring and what you're perceiving. And you're perceiving based on your accumulated character. All of your perceived experiences that you call you, that are then interpreting your next experiences. Anyone else? Realize for a moment that you didn't just choose the crystal also chose you for this meditation. There's a reason each one of those came out today, wanted to be a part of the meditation. You'll notice that only 12 wanted to come out today, and only 12 of you wanted to show up today. Which one's which? Do you see? There's always that give and take between the energetic fields and your circles of influence, your realms of endeavor, so to speak. So the meditations to take home, the meditations that we are not sharing online, and as you do that visualization over time, it will come alive. You see, that's how all of these things are. So you eventually get to the soul of the thing and then to the spirit of it. The soul is the consciousness, the heart that connects spirit and form. And any form that you interact with has a soul and a spirit. Do you see? So in other words, you can build your own form and allow things to come alive with persistence, dedication, faith, humility. The power will come through it. Do you see? So that's the two meditations. If you want to practice them, build relations with them, you can. These meditations are to help you learn how to have peace as you polarize in your astral body, and to start to give you the first step to give you a stronger foundation to step into your mental body. Sound good? For a play. So we're going to close out. So if you can, put your stone down for a second. And just close your eyes, seal yourself off. A bubble of light all around you. A bubble of light in this room. Send that loving light out to the world. Or anyone in particular. Send that loving light, allowing it to grow, spread, have its influence on humanity all of the great work you did tonight in service, helping to be a beneficial influence. The important parts that you play, and then bring that light back into your heart, purifying and clearing your heart, sealing off your own light being, so it's just you there in your auric egg. I want to thank all of you for joining tonight, helping to make this special. I learned a lot, so thank you.